All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and hello. Thank you for joining us today through in this presentation. My name is Luis Chun. I'm an English major, um, fourth year English major. So on the verge of graduation, I am very excited to be here today. And I got to tell you, 2 days ago, I got my second dose of the vaccine. And yesterday, I was feeling really bad, but I feel so much better today. I don't know if it's just the adrenaline from presenting today, but I think it helped me get through the symptoms. I'm so excited to be sharing to you today the topic which we will be discussing, which is evidence-oriented platforms, guidelines for addressing misinformation on social networks. And before we get into my topic, I want to take the time to acknowledge my faculty mentor, Professor James Tobias, who's in the English department and whose research is focused on digital media studies. And so I was really happy to work with him. He really helped me ground my research and focus on something that can help me draw conclusions about tackling this issue, misinformation on social networks. And it's kind of an ocean of information out there. There's so many things that you could talk about. And so, like I said, I'm very grateful to my mentor for helping me ground my research and focus on two things to build an analysis, which I will be sharing with you today. So that being said, I would like to begin. Let me see if this is going to go. Okay, there we go. All right. I'd like to begin discussing about something that's really important. It's something that grounds the research and really starts to introduce why I wanted to explore social networks, misinformation, and kind of just digital technologies and the digital environment, something that I propose, or a term that I use in my paper broadly. So there is not a better example than the situation that we have right here, right now. We're in a global pandemic, and we are meeting over a digital platform, Zoom. And so through this digital platform, we have something really unique. And I'm going to re-emphasize this throughout my presentation. Digital technologies are able to transcend time and space. We're able to see this presentation and have this symposium from multiple locations, wherever the presenter is. I'm a couple of miles away from UCR. And as we are recording this presentation and we'll upload it as a digital file, we will be able to access it whenever we want in the future, so long as that file can exist, right? And so digital technologies transcend time and space. This is something that is a breakaway from other media formats, such as radio broadcast, television broadcast, where you have something that's broadcasted, delivered, but people have to agree on the time. And there's only kind of like a one way in terms of directional discussion, like there's a presenter and no one's interacting. But with digital technologies, you can build platforms where everyone's kind of participating in the conversation simultaneously, regardless of where they at or what time they engage with the conversation. And so Zoom is an example of that. In my paper, I focus specifically just to kind of get the ideas going about the digital environment on Google Maps. Google Maps is a service that tries to kind of really emulate, replicate, kind of give users an idea of what's actually happening, what the real world or natural environment is like. So if you want to get an idea of a vacation, where you're going to go or how you're going to drive to a place, you can use Google Maps Street View feature. You get 360 view of the road or the destination you want to go, and you can get a really good feel of what the location is going to be like. Of course, Google Maps also has real-time traffic conditions. So that's also something that's trying to replicate the real world, or trying to give you an idea of what's actually going on in the real world through a digital format. And so there's some important things that come out of this discussion related to what the digital environment is, what it constitutes, and how we should think about it. So I just want to give a little bit of an agenda about what we're going to be talking about, or what I'm going to talk about in my talk today. Motivation behind the research paper. We already started talking briefly about the digital environment, and I want to expand on some things before diving into the literature review. Everything that has interested me and this kind of concept about the digital environment informed the types of pieces and texts that I researched to build my own ideas and conduct an analysis. So I will be sharing that analysis with you, just kind of the general ideas behind it, and then going to what an evidence-oriented platform is. So this paper proposes that term, evidence-oriented platform, as something that can help us build guidelines that are supposed to be implemented or inform social network sites. I focus specifically on Facebook because it is the largest social network in the world with the most active user base on a global scale. And informed by something, a model EOP, right, which will be forensic architecture. And I'm going to dive into that when we explore that. And then just some conclusions. There's some very important things. You'll see why I was motivated to do this and how it informs some of the things that I proposed going forward, the reader going beyond this paper, right? Okay. So I was born in 1999, and I actually got to see a little bit of VHS cassette tapes. I remember my parents, they had this palm quarter. I still saw a little bit of the analog technologies, television and things like that. And I got to see how the huge transformation from, VHS, digital point and shoot cameras, these kind of things that were starting to move toward the digital, and how they really moved into the digital. Right now, we're at the point where we can have this conference online with reliable network connections on devices that are more sophisticated and faster than ever before. That being said, the reason why I wanted to do this project was because I've always been interested in technology. And as I stated, I've seen the growth and development and expansion of modern digital technologies. Like I said, modern devices such as smartphones, tablets, and laptops, and really fast and reliable networks. Some of the things that are kind of really important to consider in all this, as I start building into the important things to keep in mind about the digital environment. Digital technologies can transcend time and space. And so in that sense, compared to analog technologies, there's never really been something quite like this. One of the key findings from the literature review was from a textbook talking about digital media. And one of the things that the authors emphasize is that digital technologies are susceptible to, can be manipulated by the rules and laws of mathematics. So if you think about some of basic things in mathematics, addition, subtraction, and multiplication, division, which are a variation on that, and think about exponential growth. So anything that's digital is subject to immense growth and decline. It can change rapidly. It can be implemented or deployed rapidly. And this is something that truly is unprecedented. As I was describing about my relationship, seeing digital technologies develop, it's really important to keep in mind digital footprint. We are becoming increasingly interconnected with digital technologies. And so here we have a definition of digital footprint, collective individuals' behavior, including social media, website, online behavior, all of that. In the paper, I extend that definition, building off of the notion of digital footprints. The digital environment includes the places where we set foot, social media, websites, online stores, but it also constitutes everything beyond users and devices and the internet more broadly. So as stated, these are the pivotal texts that I focused on in going into my analysis, thinking about social networks. And so we have new media. Again, it really helped me break down what's actually going on with media technologies. Philosophy of technologies is a great piece that introduced ideas about how we can think of our relationship with technology. And business journalism, you will see in my analysis that considering the motives behind the platforms and their companies or organizations is really, really important. So I want to, before I get into the analysis, I just want to quickly say that one of the important things that I propose, my research, evidence-oriented platforms, builds off of an original paper that I talked about the digital environment specifically. And in that paper, I stated that we have to rethink our relationship with digital technologies because of its prevalence, because of its immense growth and the increasing interconnectedness between digital technologies and the real world. We have to really rethink our relationship. as we see here in the analysis. So I spent my time looking at Facebook. It's an example, it's not an evidence-oriented platform. Their mission statement, which is kind of the business side of Facebook, give people the power to build community and bring the world closer together. Now, the thing that's important to remember about Facebook is that it's a private company. And really, its mission is more oriented around the monetization of user data. This monetization occurs through precise advertising that they sell to companies or anyone who wants to advertise on the platform. And so that's what they charge. That's how they make their money. Their interests aren't really around providing reliable information. Whereas this is forensic architecture. Maybe you haven't heard of forensic architecture. Their mission is to develop and disseminate and employ new techniques for evidence gathering and presentation in the service of human rights and environmental investigations. Their interests are as a research agency, and they want to have a high reputation and focus and build on investigations. I want to quickly go through these points right here. Both platforms exist in the digital environment, right? They both work with media and information. And so remember that the digital environment is becoming increasingly intertwined and relevant. So the way that they handle media is vastly different, and their interests inform the way that they handle that digital media. This is really important to remember because Facebook isn't incentivized or kind of led to want to provide accurate information on the platform. They're growth-based. They want to get as many people on the platform so that they can continue to monetize that data. Whereas forensic architecture handles the digital media as a way to investigate things that have happened, such as human rights violations. And so very quickly, just coming back to this, forensic architecture and Facebook both offer platforms. And just really quickly, an example of those platforms, forensic architecture offered a platform for users to be able to record instances of police brutality during the protests after George Floyd's death. And so the thing about forensic architecture is that they use digital media. They actually even use Facebook to kind of look through what people were posting in order to form a really accurate picture of the event. Whereas Facebook, it's just the user posting that event, right? And so I established these guidelines as something that I think social networks really have to consider more deeply. Evidence-oriented platforms set very clear mission statements that include giving people the ability to build community around evidence-based facts. This is something that forensic architecture does. They also prioritize hiring people and or developing algorithms that validate the accuracy of information and media on the platform and contextualize everything. And lastly, evidence-oriented platforms adopt business models or financing structures that include stakeholders that expect reliable information across the entire platform. So just to conclude, more research has to be done. One of the reasons I wanted to explore this was because I'm really concerned about the spread of conspiracy theories and misinformation on social networks. And as you saw, the digital environment constitutes so many things. It's so vast and wide and complex. This is just kind of me trying to explore through this research ways that we can rethink our relationship with digital technology and ways that we can rethink the way that social networks operate, their business model, and what they present and how they present on their platforms. In compared to something like forensic architecture that is really deliberate about presenting accurate information, crowdsourcing accurate information, and giving context around what you're seeing on the platform. The humanities approach is, I think, one of the best ways to do this because it can think broadly and offer guidelines and help people developing the technologies, the platforms like forensic architecture or Facebook or other social networks. So the key thing about this and what I was trying to inspire as a result of this paper is we need a movement. We all need to inform ourselves about what's our relationship with digital technology, who are the organizations behind them, and what's actually going on. I think the more informed that we become about this, the more we can critically think and protest or judge what these powerful platforms like Facebook and other social networks offer and what they do and how they handle information. We have to do this because the digital environment is only getting bigger, it's only expanding across the world. And if we don't do this, there's a lot at stake. there's a bunch of things that we need to keep in mind. The spread of misinformation is dangerous. And so we need to be more aware and conscious of what we're doing when we spend time in the digital environment, our digital footprint, and look at who does it really well and who needs help and more guidelines for presenting more accurate information. So that being said, thank you very much. That was my presentation, and I think right now we open up for questions. Is that right?
Yes, thank you, Luis, so much for your presentation. If I can ask you to stop recording at this moment so that we can have a conversation with the other attendees today.
All right.